All right, so here we go. So Harold, welcome back. So let's get right into the questions. Pro athletes are now involved in community outreach. In 2017, it seems that every pro sport franchise are now giving back to the community. Why so generous now, and where did it all start?
Well, number one, Dave Bing in 1967, who went to Spingarn High School. I'm an alumnus of Spingarn High School. I was working as a roving leader with the DC Department of Recreation. In roving leaders, we work with youth gangs and at-risk children here in the Washington area. And I had just been assigned to the DC Recreation Department Roving Leader Program. It was an elite program within the DC Recreation Department. And it was a job that everybody cherished, you know, working in the streets. You worked the playgrounds, you worked the schools, you worked all over. You kind of on your own. So my first year was 1967. I was able to get to the Road Leader Program because of a grant provided by the United Planning Organization. I had started out with the United Planning Organization in 1965 when they hired 3 neighborhood workers. They hired Petey Green, H. Rap Brown, and Harold Bell. Well, the next year, they gave a grant to the DC Recreation Department for a roving leader, and Mr. Banks, who was the CEO, said, hey, y'all got to take Harold Bell if we give you this money. So that's how I was able to get right into the roving leader program. Well, that first year, guess what jumps off? There was a game between Spingarn High School and McKinley Tech, and played at Spingarn, and after the game, it was a shooting. One kid from Spingarn got shot. So right away, they called me and said, Harold, we need for you to go out to Spingarn to see if you could quell the violence that's about to take place out there. And I said, okay, you know, that's my home ground. So I went out to Spingarn, and it was chaotic. You know, the kids at Spingarn were talking about getting the revenge on the McKinley Tech students because one of their kids had been shot. Well, I didn't really tell you the truth. I didn't know what to do, man. I'm out there, so it hit me. I said, Dave Bing, who was a rookie in the NBA, they're playing in the NBA All-Star game in Baltimore. Dave Bing being a Spingarn alumnus, why don't I go with Baltimore and see if I can track Dave Bing down and get him to come up here to the school to talk to the students? So I did. I went over to Baltimore that Saturday and waited outside the arena. Somebody showed me where the ball players would be entering, and I'm sitting out there waiting to catch up with Dave, and Dave comes up with Big Bob Lanier. So he spots me. He said, Harold, what you doing over here, man? I said, man, look, I come over to see you. We got a problem, man, at Spingarn, man. We had a shooting over the weekend on Friday, and one of the Spingarn kids got shot. And I don't really know what to do. I thought it'd be a great idea if you could come over to Spingarn after the game on Sunday, Monday morning, you know, roll up into Spingarn and talk to the kids. He said, okay, no problem. So on Monday morning, Dave shows up at Spingarn, and the principal calls a full student body audience, you know, in the auditorium. And when Dave Bing walked into the auditorium, they gave him a standing ovation. Well, why did they give him a standing ovation? They had just seen him on national television the day before playing in the NBA All-Star game, and they showed the love and how proud they were of Dave when he walked into the building and walked into the auditorium. Well, Dave went up on the stage and he spoke to the kids. He calmed everything down, and he told them that the most important thing for them to do was get their education. And that calmed everything down. So that was the first time that, you know, you really heard of a pro athlete getting involved in the community. And so, hey, man, from then on, the next year, I got Willie Wood. Willie Wood was an All-American player at Armstrong High School. And he went on to play for University of Southern Cal, became the first black quarterback out there in modern day history at Southern Cal, and then became a walk-on for the Green Bay Packers with the great Vince Lombardi teams. Well, back there in those days, you know, NFL ball players weren't making this asinine money that these guys are making today. So Willie would come home and work as a teacher over to the DC Recreation Department as a roving leader. Well, I knew Willie from back in the day. He was a legend in D.C. as far as athletics was concerned. And I was on the Spingarn team my first year in 1956 when we played Willie Wood and Armstrong for the for the championship, for the East Division championship, and we beat them 13-7 up at Cardozo Stadium. I didn't really see any action, but man, that was such a great win for us that we beat the great Willie Wood, you know, and his Armstrong team. So anyway, make a long story short, Willie would come home and work, as I said, with the road leader program or work as a teacher. Well, in 1968, Willie was working as my co-worker with the DC Recreation Department, and we were hanging out on 9th Street, and we went and had a sandwich in a place called Chez Maurice. And I never forget it. It was a beautiful, bright, sunshiny day. And after we had the sandwich, Willie and I came out, and we hung on the corner, chilling, you know, waving at everybody. Well, everybody was waving at Willie. Everybody knew Willie. So suddenly, about 15 or 20 minutes later, man, a car rides by, and someone yells out of the car, "Hey, Harold, they just shot and killed Dr. King in Memphis, Tennessee." So Willie looks at me, and I look at Willie, you know, we don't know if this was a damn fool just hollering out the car, you know. So we didn't pay any attention. Well, we're still standing there, and people come out the restaurant, and they tell us, yeah, we just saw it on television. They just shot Dr. King in Memphis, Tennessee. So right away, Willie said, man, we got trouble. We got trouble. He was absolutely right. Well, within about half hour, 45 minutes, man, it looked like everything was burning. So Willie and I didn't know what to do. So Willie said, Harold, call up to DC Recreation Department and ask Stan Anderson, who was our boss, what should we do? So we called Stan and said, look, you and Willie need to stay out there, Harold. You guys are both high-profile personalities. Everybody knows you're in the community, and you might be able to save some child's life. So that was it. So Willie and I started walking down the U Street corridor, and as we're walking down the U Street corridor towards Ben's Chili Bowl, we see this brother walking toward us, real sharp, dressed real nice, man. It was none other than Luke C. Moore. Luke C. Moore was the first modern-day black U.S. Marshal in charge, appointed by the President of the United States. Well, we knew Luke from the streets. Even though he wasn't from D.C., he lived in D.C., you know, and we knew him from the streets. So Luke came down, and the three of us joined arms and walked down the U Street corridor together. And after we got down right there in front of Ben's Chili Bowl, Luke spotted Ben and about 5 or 6 other businessmen standing out in front of the restaurant. So he told me, and Willie said, look, let me go over here and see what's happening. So he moved on over, went over to talk to Ben and the businessmen. Then he came back to us. He said, man, Ben just told me that they had been ordered to shut down by the police department and the White House, close all businesses in D.C. during the riots. So Luke said, hold it, man. They cannot close Ben's Chili Bowl down. Ben's Chili Bowl has to be there for first responders. And we're talking about doctors, nurses, the police department, the fire department, military personnel, and youth advocates like ourselves. We had to have a place to eat. So Luke said, look, I'll be right back. So he left me and Willie standing there on the street, and he was gone. And we called back up to the recreation department to alert them, to update them what was happening down on the corridor. So Stan said, look, I just got a call from Assistant Chief Tillman O'Brien, Harold. He wants you to come down to the 3rd District, down to the precinct, to see him. So Tillman O'Brien was one of 2 black administrators in the D.C. Police Department in the 60s. There was another guy by the name of Bigfoot Davis. He was called Bigfoot because he'd stick his foot in your ass if you didn't get off the corner. So anyway, so I said, man, let me go down here and see what Tillman wants. You know, Tillman was a community guy and sharp, and he knew what to say out of his mouth. So I walked on down to the precinct. So when I get in, Sergeant said, Mr. Bell, the chief is waiting for you downstairs. So I go downstairs, and I see all these cops in riot gear, man, gas masks, rifles, and everything. I said, man, what is going on here? So Tillman said, Harold, come here. So I go over, and Tillman hands me a police bag. I said, what's this, Chief? He said, well, I want you to meet your new partners. I said, what you mean? Meet my new partners. He said, Harold, we're going to need you out there in the streets, man, because you know everybody. And I said, hold it, Chief. You going to send me back out there with a badge? I need a gun. You want me to go back out there? He said, Harold, I can't give you a gun. He said, I can't give you a gun. You're going to be all right. You know, everybody knows. I said, Chief, I'm not worried about the folks out in the street. I'm worried about one of these scared cops shooting me. You understand? So he said, okay, you be all right. Anyway, make a long story short, he convinced me to go back out there with a police badge. The police badge allowed me to get through the military barricades and the police barricades around the city. That could, you know, my pass to go anywhere. So I walked back down to Ben's Chili Bowl, and there Luke and Willie were standing out there. And Luke told me, he said, look, I just got through talking to the President of the United States, Lyndon Baines Johnson, and he's going to allow Ben's Chili Bowl to stay open. Ben's Chili Bowl was the only business to stay open during the riots, the only business. And, well, you know what happened during the riots. It was devastating, you know. By the time the tear gas had subsided and the armored trucks had left the street, man, it was devastation all up and down the corridor. Black folks had burned up their own community. They didn't go down to 8th Street or up in Montgomery County. They burned in their own community, man. And by the time we looked around, man, and looked down, people that lost their homes, their businesses, people lost their jobs, everything, man, you know. When you stop and think about those times, 1968, you could have brought a home in the Cardozo Shore area for $50,000. Now it costs you over almost $1 million to get a one-bedroom condo. So black folks hurt themselves when they burned up their own community. Now, what I'm saying is, when you start talking about community involvement with pro athletes, Dave Bing in 1967, Willie Wood in 1968 were the first professional athletes to come out and work in the community with kids. I had started Kids in Trouble at the time because 1968, I married my wife November 1968, and I had my first Christmas toy party for needy children in December 1968. Because we had looked around and we said, man, what are these kids going to do for Thanksgiving? What are they going to do for Christmas? And we came up with the idea of a Christmas toy party for needy children. At the time, I was playing football for a team called the Virginia Sailors as a wide receiver, moonlighting on the weekend to make some extra money. And so I went to my teammates. I said, look, man, I need for each of you guys to come up with a toy for a kid. Okay? Then I went to Ben's Chili Bowl and asked Ben in Virginia for hot dogs and rolls and potato chips to feed the kids. And I asked my wife, who was teaching at Cardozo High School, to ask her colleagues to cook some food for the kids. And we had our first Christmas toy party, December 1968. I'll never forget it. My teammate, George Kelly, played Santa Claus. He was a linebacker on the football team, and he played Santa Claus. So that was when the first professional athletes that I know of got involved in the community. And then later on, I was able to bring in the Redskins like Roy Jefferson, Larry Brown, Harold McClinton, Ted Vactor, Dave Robinson. They joined Kids in Trouble and became Santa's helpers. That's where it all started. What you're seeing now with the NBA, NFL, Major League Baseball, hockey, all these sports, they have followed my lead when it comes to bringing out the athletes into the community. Not only did I bring out the athletes, but I brought out the judges like Luke Moore, Henry Kennedy, Harry T. Alexander, Judge Newman, Judge Green, man, I brought all the judges out. Then followed them, the TV personalities, and everybody else came out. But that's how it all got started. What you see now is a spin-off of Kids in Trouble. And let me tell you this. In 1970, the NFL did their first community promo for national television at my Hillcrest Children's Center Saturday program, which had a swimming pool. And they filmed Larry Brown and Harold McClinton teaching water safety to inner city kids. That was the first national promo by NFL Films. So all you see now, that's what happened, and that's where it all started.
Okay, I understand. Okay, so first you were a DC legend. Then you were a DC legend when it came to sports and the community, and some say that you were a great athlete. Mm-hmm. Okay. How much of that is true?
Well, you know, when people start talking about legends, you know, I think about legends. People are legends in their own time, and some are legends in their own mind, you know. Well, I'm a legend in my own mind, my own mind and in my own time, too. But I became a community legend because of my work in the community with young people. And when they started talking about being a legend as an athlete, you know, a lot of people claimed that I was a great athlete. I wasn't a great athlete by no stretch of the imagination. But the thing that made me stand out is that I wanted the ball in my hands during when the game was on the line. I don't care if it was football, basketball, or baseball. I thought I was the best out there. But when you start talking about great athletes, in the housing project that I grew up in Parkside, man, some guys came out of there that I could not carry their jockey straps. You hear what I'm saying? They just did not get an opportunity to carry their skills to the next level, either having a child early, either dropping out of school and had to work. But I remember some young folks that came behind me that were some great athletes. But I think they were better than I was. I think about a guy by the name of Kenny Springfield. I think about a guy by the name of Rodney Shoe Scott. Man, terrific athlete. And then there was Alfonso Lawson. All these guys come out of Parkside. Alfonso Lawson went on to have a brief run with the New York Jets, and all of them came out of Spingarn, and all of them followed behind me, and all of them were wide receivers. In fact, Alfonso Lawson went on to be a psychiatrist, man. I think he might have played a year with the Jets. And then there's Cecil Turner, who grew up in Parkside. Cecil was an all-star at Spingarn High School, and he went on to play for the Chicago Bears. Had a great career with the Chicago Bears as a wide receiver and punt returner, and then went on to work in law enforcement. So we start talking about great athletes. These young guys, even though they followed me to Spingarn, I think, man, when I look at it and be truthful, I think they were better athletes than myself. I just happened to be in a spot where I ran my mouth all the time, brought a lot of attention to myself, but I thought also that I was the best on the field, and I think that's what the thing. That's the same way I played a game called life, man. You got to go out there thinking that you're the best. And even though me thinking I was the best got me in a lot of trouble with my teammates, got me in a lot of trouble with some of my coaches, not all of them, but I got kicked off. I played first string baseball, basketball, and football. And I got kicked off 2 of the 3 teams. I got kicked off the baseball team because I was trying to act like Willie Mays, stealing the bases whenever I wanted to. And I stole a base in the Fairmount Heights game. I'll never forget it. We were trailing 5-4, and I stole from first to second to third. So my coach, Leo Hill, said, just hold it right there, Bell. Donald Malloy is coming to bat. Donald Malloy was one of our best hitters, you know, and it was 2 outs. So anyway, Donald comes to bat, and guess what I decided to do? I'm going to steal home. Well, I was out by a mile. I was out by a mile, man. Everybody's teed off at me. We get back to school. Mr. Hill comes in the locker room. He said, Bell, I need you to turn your uniform in, son, because there's not but one Willie Mays, and he's in New York. he kicked me to the curb, man. And that particular team went on to play at Griffith Stadium, where all athletes wanted to play in Griffith Stadium, man. And they went up to play Wilson for the championship and lost 3-2. But the guy that replaced me in left field made 2 errors to lose the game. And Donald Malloy, the guy who was at bat, has never let me forget that I lost that championship by acting a fool. So yeah, I was a decent athlete. I got kicked off the basketball team. My coach, William Roundtree, who coached Dave Bing. I became a little selfish. You know, I wanted to shoot the ball more than I should have. He designed a defense for me called Boxing 1. In the Boxing 1, you check the other team's best scorer. So I wasn't satisfied with that because I wasn't getting my name in the paper. So I decided I want to shoot the ball. And I messed up the chemistry of a great team, man, and ended up kicking me off the team with about 5 games left in the season, man. Said he was going to go with some JV guys. So there, and got to football. I was locked in the bus at halftime in the Phelps Spingarn game because I got an argument with my quarterback, Donald Wills, because he didn't get the ball to me in time. I jumped offside, the score was 0-0. I scored a touchdown. So I come back raising hell with him. And as we go to the bus, because we're not at our school, we go back to the bus and sit on, and Coach told us what he wanted us to do. We say a prayer. And I'm getting ready to get off the bus. Coach Brown said, hold it, Bell. we're going to try to win this one without you, son. Locked me on the bus. And Donald Wills ended up running a punt back for 63 yards, and we beat Phelps 6-0. So on the way back to school, man, you know, everybody's so happy. I'm sad because I don't think they could win. I couldn't think that they couldn't win without me, right? Well, we got back to school, said a prayer, and as we started off the bus, Coach Brown said, I think Bell has something he wants to say to you guys. So I'm talking under my breath, man. I ain't got nothing I want to say to nobody, you know? So my teammate, Richard Hansberg, kicked me, man. He said, you better get your butt up there, man. You're off the team if you don't get up there. I ran up there, apologized to everybody, and man, that saved my life. That saved my life.
Okay, cool. Now let's talk about the relationship that you have built over the years. And I want to talk about two people in particular right now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now these two people you're broken bread with are two of the most controversial and pulverizing personalities in American history. Okay, we're talking about President Richard Nixon, and we're talking about the greatest, Muhammad Ali.
Right.
Okay, you pretty much are the only person on the planet that can claim that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Right.
Which one of those two did you meet first?
Well, I met Vice President Richard Nixon first. I remember 1957, I was in high school, and we were living in the projects, and my mom had lost her job with the General Accounting Office. She had graduated from Cardozo High School. She was pretty smart, but we grew up with our grandmother. My brothers and I grew up with my grandmother because we had a deadbeat dad. You know, he was a Rolling Stone, like the Temptations or whoever that singer that's on. Papa was a Rolling Stone. Well, that's what he was, man. Never around. So my grandmother raised us in our early years, and after I was about 10 years old, then my mother came and got us, and we moved to Parkside. And she had that job working with the General Accounting Office as a clerk typist. And within 2 years, they had fired her because something had to do with the last hired, the first fired, you know. So she lost her job and came home and things. We had to get on welfare, man, and it was rough. It was rough for her. So I started carrying groceries at the Safeway, which was on the other side of the tracks, Minnesota Avenue. It was a white side of the tracks and a black side of the tracks. We live on the black side of the tracks. And the Safeway was down in the white community. So I would go down there and carry groceries on the weekend, man, to kind of help my mother make ends meet. Then my younger brother, Earl, him and his crew of thugs, they would go down to 8th Street Northeast, which is now Capitol Hill, and they would hit cash registers. And it would be, you know, crowded down there, and they'd distract the cashier, and one of them would hit the cash register. Well, I remember it was slow one weekend, and I went down with them down to 8th Street. I went down to be the lookout. Well, man, after that experience, that was too much drama for me. So I just told my brothers, I'm going back to carry groceries, man. I can't stand all this kind of drama. So I went back to carry groceries, and like I said, man, it was tough making ends meet, man, trying to keep food in the house. And my mother, who was, she was really an entrepreneur, man. My mother started selling chillings and chicken dinners on the weekend, potato salad, you know, half-pint liquors, half pint of liquor for $1.50. She would cut 5 cents on $1 in a card game, and to make ends meet, man. And my mother was really lucky with the numbers. She could dream a number one night and hit it the next day. And there was a number back by the name of Billy Jackson that lived out of the community. He decided to give my mother her own book, you know, to take the numbers in the projects. You know, he'd give her a cut of the money. I guess you would call that contracting out, you know. So my mother had a number book. She sold chicken, chilling dinners, bootleg liquor, and we were doing pretty good. There was always some money around the house, but, you know, any kind of success in the black community brings on jealousy and envy. And it became jealous and envy of my mother. My mother helped everybody. Anybody with a sob story, she would never say no. She would help anybody. But then all of a sudden the police started kicking our door down early in the wee hours of the morning, man. and somebody was snitching, you know, about the games and what dates and where they would be played and everything, you know. And I remember my brother Earl and I would be sitting on the steps, man, seeing the police carry my mother out in handcuffs, man. And we would sit there crying, and my mother would always look back and say, "I'll be back in time to make sure you guys get to church." You know, it was Saturday night, we had to go to church on Sunday. And she would always come back, man, make sure we got to church, man, because that's one thing that my grandmother instilled in us, was that church, man. And it was a guy by the name of Jody Wall and his sister named Doris lived across the street from us. And they would come over and take care of us while my mother, they had taken my mother off to jail. She would stay with us till my mother got home. And her brother Jody said, "Hey, Harold, how about come on going out with me to Burning Tree Golf Course on the weekend, man, and you can make more money being a caddy than you can carrying groceries, you know?" So I said, "Why not, man?" Because, man, that thing, even at the Safeway, it was getting a little, a little out of whack. I remember one night, me and my brother Earl, one evening, you know, was kind of hungry, so we decided we were going to go across the tracks and carry some groceries to get something to eat, right? Well, during the week, it was very light. It's hardly people, you know, shopping during the week, but we decided to go over there anyway. Well, we went over there and stood out front for about an hour. And, man, nobody came up to carry the groceries to the car or to walk them several blocks. So it wasn't an option of going back home hungry. So my brother Earl and I went in and make like we were looking for customers and start putting lunch meat and cheese and stuff down our pants, you know. So Earl went out the front door, I went out the back door. So we walking back home, man. As we walking back down to go cross the tracks, as we get ready to cross the tracks, man, a cop car jumped the curb. And, man, these cops jumped out and say, "You two niggas, come here, give me, you two, come here, you niggas." Threw us in the back of the car. Man, we said, man, somebody must have snitched on us. Somebody must have seen us taking, you know, this lunch meat and cheese, you know. So as we riding up to the police station, it hit me and my brother that they ain't searched us. So we take the bologna and cheese and hide it up under their seats. So they get us up to the police station, and, man, they take us into the station. There's this little old white lady sitting over in the corner. And the first thing she says, "Those are not the two niggas who snatched my pocketbook." I said, man, nigga never sounded so good. So anyway, the cops grabbed us and, "Get on out of here. Y'all walk your black asses back home." So we had to walk through the woods. There was a place called G-Man Diamond. It was a shortcut back to the projects, right? So me and my brother got in the woods and we looked at each other. We said, man, our food is still in the back seat of that car. Man, we went back down there, took our food from under the cop seat, and went back through the woods. It was not an option of going back home hungry with that food in there, you know. So it was after then I decided that I was going to go out to the Burning Tree Golf Course and with Jody Ward and start caddying. And one of the first things that Jody told me we were going out here, and they said, "Harold, one thing, stay away from Petey Green. Don't go nowhere near Petey Green." Petey Green was an ex-con, hustler, drug abuser, cheat, liar. You know, he was just off the charts, you know. Petey did not come out there to caddy on the weekends. Petey came out there and would go down deep in the woods and set up a little gambling casino with cards and crap. And he'd wait for suckers like me who've been out there all day carrying them bags to come in and lose all his money. So I said, man, y'all ain't got to worry about me going down there and messing with no Petey Green. But see, they knew I liked to gamble. So that's why they warned me, you know, don't go near Petey Green. So after about 3 weeks out there, I came in early one day. I got my bag, came in early. So now I got to wait for my homeboys, because we like to ride back together to the project. And we used to have to get a ride in from Burning Tree Golf Course into the city of Westmoreland Circle to catch our bus. So anyway, I'm standing out there, so I'm getting impatient waiting for my homeboys, you know. I said, man, wish these guys come on, man, because it was a beautiful day, man. It was getting late in the evening. And so I'm walking back and forth, waiting for them. And as I'm walking back and forth, I said, man, let me go down here and see what this Petey Green is all about. So, man, I went down there in the woods, and did I find out what Petey Green was all about? Man, I was broke in 10 minutes. I had no money. I come back up there in front of the caddy shack. I don't want to see my homeboys. You understand? I don't want to see them, because they done forewarned me. So I don't want to see them, man. So I said, what should I do? PD, I got $1 from PD to get for bus fare and to buy some Little Tavern hamburgers. So I had that $1, so I'm ready to leave, you know. So I'm walking back and forth between the Caddy Shack and the parking lot looking for a ride. And as I walk back toward the Caddy Shack, the Pro Max Elman comes out and say, Little Bell, come here, Little Bell. So I go over, he had these 2 bags. He said, look, I got 2 bags. These guys are not going to play but 9 holes, okay? And they just want to get in and get out. I said, man, give me those bags, man, it'll save the day. Because it's Valentine's Day is coming up, and I ain't got no money to buy my girl or candy, my mother flowers or nothing, man. So whoever these 2 guys have saved the day. So as I'm walking toward the first tee, I hear somebody say, hey, Harold, are you ready for an adventure? I turn around, I see these 2 white men looking at me. One of them was the Vice President of the United States of America, Richard Milhouse Nixon. And the other guy was Attorney General William Rogers. So I looked back and they were smiling. I said, man, come on, this give me the money. So we went out on the golf course, and when we got to the 3rd hole, man, I found out what the Vice President was talking about. Was I ready for an adventure? Well, his ball stayed in the woods and the trees more than the birds and the bees. And it was still kind of hot, man. I'm coming out of the woods, man. He back and forth. But Mr. Rogers could play. He was a good golfer. He was teaching the Vice President how to play, right? So, man, I said, well, one good thing about this ain't going to last but 9 holes. You know, she'll be ready to get in. Well, we got up to the 9th hole, and the Vice President hits another ball in the woods. So we go in there, and he come out, and he hollers across the fairway to Mr. Rogers. Hey, Bill, let's go 9 more. I said, oh, my God, he didn't say that. 9 more, it's dark, man. So anyway, we go 9 more holes, and we come up to the 8th hole. It's dark. I don't know how they can even see the ball. The Vice President hit another ball in the woods. He said, okay, Harold, that's it. You know, we through for the day. So I'm looking at the clubhouse, man. There's very few lights on in the clubhouse, which means almost everybody's gone. And the golfers that are in there, they done shower, they just sit down, they playing pinochle, right? They hanging around. So I said, man, I don't know how I'm gonna get home. My homeboys are gone. No, they done left me. So anyway, I'm staying out there waiting for someone to come pay me, you know, Mr. Rogers or the Vice President. And out comes the door, comes the Vice President. He said, Harold. I said, yes, sir. So he gives me my money. He said, look, we'll see you next time. And I muttered to myself, I hope not. And so I'm going out, standing there. I got to figure out how I'm going to get home. The only people that are left in there are the clubhouse people, the cooks and stuff. I said, well, maybe I get a ride with them. Well, as I'm walking back and forth, who bust out the door but the Vice President, Mr. Rogers? And before I could say anything, the Vice President said, Harold, you need a ride in? I said, yes, sir, I surely do. So anyway, I followed them to the parking lot. We get to the parking lot, about 4 or 5 cars out there. They had a black Cadillac as long as this room, man. I ain't never seen a car that big. Now, you got to realize, during that time, the Vice President did not have Secret Servicemen guarding him. It was just he and Bill Rogers. And as we walk to the parking lot, Mr. Rogers gets into the driver's side, and Mr. Nixon gets in the passenger side. So I open up the door, and man, it looked like an apartment back there. I said, whoa, man, ain't never been nothing like this. So I got on there, cool, you know, and they pull on out, heading on into town. So while Mr. Rogers is paying attention to the road, the Vice President turns his attention to me and started, you know, looking at me, smiling. So he says, Harold, tell me about where you live, son. How many brothers and sisters do you have? What school do you go to? I said, well, Mr. Vice President, I live in a housing project called Parkside. My mother is a single parent trying to raise 3 boys. But my older brother lives with my grandmother, and so it's me and my brother Earl, you know? So he said, what school do you go to? I said, well, I go to Spingarn High School, sir. He said, wow. So he looked at me and said, you play any sports? I said, yes, sir. When he said that, I stuck my chest out, man. I said, I play football, basketball, and baseball. He said, wow, you any good? I said, sir, I'm pretty good. Yeah, I'm pretty good. So he looks back at me, and the next question he asked me, man, knocked me to my knees. I had to put my head between my legs. He said, Harold, how are your grades, son? I said, oh my God, not good, sir. They're not good. So here's the Vice President of the United States taking an interest in a little black kid from a housing project in D.C. So I mean, that kind of inspired me, you know? So he said, son, let me tell you something. You got to get your grades. Your grades will take you to the next level. Your grades will take you where football, basketball, and baseball will never take you. I never forget that, man. And as we got to Westmoreland Circle, man, he said, look, you stay focused because you seem like, you know, you got confidence in yourself, and that's great. But the books are the most important thing, and that's what you got to do. So anyway, I got out of the car, got on the bus, and I rode home. I never forgot that conversation. And so I would start laying out of the golf course waiting for them to come play on Saturday. They come like late on Saturdays or late on Sundays, and I would eventually get the bags. And the Vice President and I deserved a pretty good relationship, man. Come to find out, this man knew some sports. You know, I would bet that if he had not become President of the United States, that he would have become a sports writer or sports talk show host because he knew sports, man. In fact, I remember one weekend he told me, he said, Harold, I see you guys lost this past week. What happened? Oh, man, I was surprised. I said, yes, sir, we lost. We lost. I said, we lost to Eastern. He said, yep, that's right, you sure did. I said, yeah, they had our number, you know, we lost, but it'll be all right, you know. So, man, I realized that this man cared something about me, you know, that he not only didn't want to see me become a success, you know, on the athletic field, but also he wanted to see me become a success as a student, man. And that year carried on over to '58, you know. We became good friends, man, and it was amazing, man. He was just like a normal guy, man, you know. Like I said, his sports background, he played, people don't realize that he played football. I don't know to what extent, but there he is in uniform at Whittier College, you know. So he knew the game of football. And in '58, he went his way and I went mine. I ended up having to spend an extra year in school. I ended up graduating from Fairmont Heights High School because I stayed in so much trouble, man. My mother had nervous breakdown and had to be put in the hospital, man. I was homeless for a while in 1958, trying to find my way. And I just made it, man, because of my high school coach, Dave Brown, who became my mentor. And I remember him coming in the pool room one evening after I transferred from Spingarn to Easton. And then I was out in the streets, don't know where I'm going. And he shows up in the pool room and tells me that your mom wants you to graduate from high school, son. You need to go back and get your diploma. And so he got me in Fairmont Heights for 1959, where I played football and made all county. You know, I had to play some sports because I wouldn't have stayed in school. So he told the coach, football only. Then Harold played football only, no basketball. I wanted him to get his degree, get his diploma, and get out of here. And I did. And he ended up getting me down to Winston-Salem State University in North Carolina, man. And that kicked it off, man. You know, that relationship with the Vice President and the Secretary, Attorney, well, he ended up being the Secretary of State in the Nixon administration. But it was a memorable experience, man. And that's how I met Richard Nixon, and that's how that relationship came about. Now I know you want to hear about Muhammad Ali.